me to introduce them, or some of them? I honestly, even when I play the piano, sometimes I introduce them on autopilot. So if I happen to invite everyone to Rock in Body and Voice and Spirit, I'm not perfect. Yeah, depending on what we're kind of transitioning into or out of. Although, you know, you can use this one because you'll be coming right after Eric. You know what? Why don't you introduce all of them? Because I'm actually not speaking directly before any of the hymns. Because Janet has the words for that. So, never mind. It's all you, Barbara. Thank you. Thank you, Vicky. No pressure. No pressure. Okay. I think it's time.
About 10:30 by a clock that is actually correct. That, that one's slow. Yeah, it's a couple minutes slow.
Good morning. Please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing the gathering hymn, number 88 in the gray hymnal. Number 88 in the gray hymnal, Calm Soul of All Things. And we'll do both verses. Calm soul of all things, make it mine to feel amid the city's jar that there abides words a piece of thine I did not make and cannot mar. The will to neither strive nor cry, the power to feel with others give. Call me more, nor let me die before I have begun to live.
A little Matthew Arnold for us, in case you were thinking, what my week has been missing is some Victorian poetry. You're welcome. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Salem. I am the Reverend Monica Jacobson. I use she, her pronouns, and I serve this congregation as minister. I am grateful that you are here. Those of you in the room, those of you joining us online, everyone choosing to take an hour or so of this busy time to dedicate to our spiritual lives and to the shared religious life of this community. Whomever you love, whatever beliefs sustain you, however you understand and express your identities, and in all the ways you are still becoming the person you will be, you are welcome here. And you are needed as we gather in this community to dedicate ourselves to the well-being of each other, of our broader community, and of the earth. As we begin our time together this morning, I invite you to pause with me, to breathe with intention. Feel the air come in and fill your body. Feel it go out. Know that you are here in this gathering and not anywhere else, which means that whatever is happening in your email, on the news, whatever weeds are coming up in your garden, all of that can wait as we choose to spend this hour together. Remember, life itself is a gift, and each day is a new chance to learn, to let love move in us and through us, and to breathe, knowing that we are all connected. Come, let us worship together.
We need one another. The chaos and confusion around us can make it really difficult to know where to focus our attention, how to figure out the best way to help so we can be sure that we're doing all we can, and to know that our efforts are not alone, that we're joining in community. We need one another. Please join me in saying our affirmation. It's in your order of service, or it's on the back wall on the video. Love is our doctrine. Compassion is our way. Here we seek to create a joyful home for free religious exploration. Build a community of caring fellowship, nurture the hopes, and serve the needs of our world. At UUCS, we light 3 chalices in our service each Sunday. The first we light for you, for all the friends and members of UUCS, all those joining us online, and all those who are part of our community. We light our second chalice for our partner church in Siemanfalva, Transylvania, Romania, as a reminder of our heritage. And we light our final chalice or lantern for the future, for all the children and youth, both those in our religious education program and children around the world. We light these flames to remind us that love is the center of everything, the connection that binds us to everyone, to the web of all existence. May the light and warmth of these chalices deepen our resolve to work together toward a world built on kindness and compassion, where love is truly the center of everything. Please join me in singing these flames into life.
Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy.
Sometimes, maybe you too. Oop. We have a little one who took a tumble. Looks like everybody's okay. Sometimes, have you noticed the universe brings you things? Oh. Brings you things right as you need them. Sometimes your parents or other caregivers in your life bring you things right as you need them too. For me, I was reading through the too many Substack newsletters that I subscribe to these days. And in one of them was an exquisite poem from the poet Rosemary Watola Trummer. So I bring this poem to share with you this morning, a poem for these times, entitled Please. If you are one who has practice meeting the pain of the world, we need you. Right now, we need you to teach us that it is possible to swallow what is weighty and still be able to rise. We need you to remind us that we can be furious and scared and near feral over injustice and still thrill at the taste of a strawberry, ripe and sweet. Can still meet a stranger and shake their hand, believing in their humanness. We need you to show us how we too can fall into the darkest, unplumbed pit and learn there a courage and beauty that we could never learn from the light. If you have drowned in sorrow and somehow found your way to breathe, please lead us. You are the one with the crumbs we need, the ones we will use to find our way back home to our hearts. May it be so.
Good morning, all. I'm Eric Schumann, one of your Lifeline's lay ministers. I have a couple of personal joys, and there is one sorrow that has been recorded in the book this morning. I have a joy about two members of our congregation whom I saw in the vestibule this morning. One is one of our two oldest members, Marge French, who has a big grin on her face this morning. And the other is Gerald Martisak, who walked in unassisted after having a knee replaced and who's looking great. The sorrow that was recorded in our book comes from Danielle McCormick, who says, "My dearest friend is struggling with the stress of possibly getting laid off and could use some positive thoughts and energy. Thank you so much." And we have one more candle to light, as we do each Sunday, and that's for those joys and those sorrows that stay within our hearts and that we don't share out loud, but that many of us have this morning. Lifeline's lay ministers are members of the congregation who support the work of our minister, who reach out to folks in need, people who may be suffering emotionally, physically, or who just need a listening ear. How do you reach us? Well, one way is to meet us in person at the Lifeline's table, which is in the fellowship hall, right outside those doors, each Sunday morning. And you can identify us not only by being seated there, but because we wear lavender badges and lavender stoles. And I see 5 of us here this morning. You can also reach us by email. There's more information about how to do that on the back of your order of service. Thank you.
You may be seated for the next hymn, Find a Stillness, number 352. Find a stillness, hold the stillness, let the stillness carry me. Find the stillness, hold the silence, let the silence carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony. Seek the essence, hold the essence, let the essence carry me. Let me flower, help me flower, watch me flower, carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony.
Manifesto, The Mad Farmer Liberation Front, by Wendell Berry, 1973. Love the quick profit, the annual raise, vacation with pay. Want more of everything ready-made. Be afraid to know your neighbors and to die. And you will have a window in your head. Not even your future will be a mystery anymore. Your mind will be punched in a card and shut away in a little drawer. When they want you to buy something, they will call you. When they want you to die for profit, they will let you know. So friends, every day, do something that won't compute. Love the Lord. Love the world. Work for nothing. Take all that you have and be poor. Love someone who does not deserve it. Denounce the government and embrace the flag. Hope to live in that free republic for which it stands. Give your approval to all that you cannot understand. Praise ignorance, for what man has not encountered, he has not destroyed. Ask the questions that have no answers. Invest in the millennium. Plant sequoias. Say that your main crop is the forest that you did not plant and that you will not live to harvest. Say that the leaves are harvested when they have rotted into mold. Call that prophet. Prophesy such returns. Put your faith in the 2 inches of humus that will build up under the trees every 1,000 years. Listen to carrion. Put your ear close and hear the faint chattering of the songs that are to come. Expect the end of the world. Laugh. Laughter is immeasurable. Be joyful, though you have considered all the facts. So long as women do not go cheap for power, please women more than men. Ask yourself, will this satisfy a woman satisfied to bear a child? Will this disturb the sleep of a woman near giving birth? Go with your love to the fields. Lie easy in the shade. Rest your head in her lap. Swear allegiance to what is nighest in your thoughts. As soon as the generals and the politicos can predict the motions of your mind, lose it. Leave it as a sign to mark the false trail, the way you didn't go. Be like the fox who makes more tracks than necessary, some in the wrong direction. Practice resurrection.
So that poem aged extremely well, right? Wisdom from 52 years ago could have been written pretty much today. Maybe we would update some of the language. Maybe we wouldn't. I especially like your mind will be punched in a card and shut away in a little drawer. When they want you to buy something, they will call you. They will send you a targeted Instagram ad. You will get a special text message. Hi, Monica, it's your friend at such and such a business. When they want you to die for profit, they will let you know. This society we live in has in fact only gotten better and better and better at tracking and yanking our attention around in the years since the 1970s. Last month, I read a new book by Chris Hayes called The Siren's Call: How Attention Became the World's Most Endangered Resource. And resource is not my favorite term for thinking about attention, because resource leads us to extractive capitalism, right? What can we take out of this ecosystem, of this mine, so we can make stuff out of it and sell it for profit? Well, I don't want to be mined for profit. Thank you very much. And yet, I live in the world today. I carry a smartphone in my pocket. I, like all of us, am a target. They want this resource, our attention. Chris Hayes teaches first in this book that there are 3 ways we understand attention. And these are best understood through the metaphor of a cocktail party. So think about being at a cocktail party or some other semi-crowded gathering. Things are happening around you. but you are choosing to focus on your conversation partner. You're kind of tuning out the other stuff because you and this person are having a conversation. This is voluntary attention, right? You are choosing, I am focusing here and not here or there or there. Now imagine someone at the cocktail party drops a tray full of glasses. Do you turn? Probably you do turn. This is involuntary attention, the way your attention is dragged away from what you choose to focus on to something that seems urgent, intrusive. And finally, there is the third kind of attention, social attention. You are deep in conversation with your chosen conversation partner when someone across the room says your name. What are they saying about me over there? Now I want to know. I don't want to do anything so bald as to walk away and go listen, but I want to know. And this too, like involuntary attention, is a powerful draw on our focus because we are social creatures, which means we care very much about the state of our relationships with others. If I hear my name, I want to know. Why am I being mentioned? What does it mean? Chris Hayes describes these three classic cocktail party illustrations of attention, and then he says, let's imagine them with our present day dilemma inserted. He says, let us say you were told that you could use any means necessary to get the full, complete, and transfixed attention of everyone in the room. There are any number of things you could do, he says. You could start screaming at the top of your lungs. You could shatter your cocktail glass. You could start taking off all your clothes. All kinds of ways that might draw the attention of everyone in the room. That's because getting a room full of people's attention is easy as long as you are allowed to use any method at your disposal. Now, keeping people's attention is much harder. Even in life or death situations, like those who have survived hijackings on airplanes, those who have been in war zones, people report that even a state of danger gets boring after a while. Hence, the endless escalation that we are experiencing. For example, think about watching the news on TV. Do you remember when it used to be a person calmly explaining to you something that had happened, and here are the details, and here are the implications? Has anybody watched news like that recently? Now everything is dramatic, and there are pictures, and there's a ticker across the bottom of the screen with more breaking news, most of it bad. Chris Hayes, the author of this book, is an anchor on MSNBC, and he said it's a very strange thing to be a journalist who wants to take people into the story and help them understand, but to be told that that is too boring now and people will not watch it and your show will be canceled. So in order to be a successful journalist, you have to consent to creating other content that will compete with you for your viewers' attention. Or, he says, think about how we used to watch movies. You used to sit down on your couch, there would be a movie on the TV, you would pretty much watch it unless it was a boring movie. Now, he says, well, you pull up the movie and you pull out your phone. You're watching two screens at the same time. This would have been unthinkable 20 years ago, and now it's normal. What has happened to our capacity for attention? Now, admittedly, we also live in times where it feels like so much is happening that those breaking news tickers and all the pings and beeps on our phones can feel warranted. And this is not the only time that has felt like this. Cast your mind back with me 5 years. Do you remember all the things that happened in 2020? I was remembering these videos that this Canadian comedian made, a woman named Julie Noki. She made videos throughout the year of 2020 in which her time-traveling self keeps visiting an earlier Julie of 3 or 4 months ago. In the first video, April 2020 Julie comes to visit January 2020 Julie. January 2020 Julie says, well, you know, these Australian wildfires are so distressing. I think that's going to be the defining news event of 2020. April Julie says, not even a little bit. Then June Julie visits April Julie and has to ask, have you hit the murder hornets yet? October Julie visits June Julie, and frankly, she immediately pulls out a cigarette and starts smoking. She has to break the news that all those summer protests of 2020 that were meant to address racial injustice have not, in fact, fixed racial injustice. And oh yeah, do you remember those Australian wildfires? Well, now a lot of North America is on fire. December Julie shows up and is asked how things went in the US election in 2020. These are Canadians, remember? So she says, oh, the States, they're doing them. And so on and so on and so on. Do you remember the pace of those days? Even though ostensibly people were mostly like, well, I'm here in my house baking my sourdough bread. But my goodness, what is happening in the bigger world is a lot. Do you feel like we're living in times like that again? You might just want to go out and weed your garden. You might just want to know if that tomato is ripe yet. You might be kind of afraid to look at the news because, oh my goodness, what has happened now? Thank you for the laughter. It's not just me who feels that way. And this happens in this world where our attention is grabbed not only involuntarily by things that are alarming to us, but also by everybody who wants us to buy something, wants us to give some money. We're $5 away from our fundraising goal, folks. If you can just chip in, you'll make a big difference. And on and on and on and on and on. This taps in to what is known in psychology as intermittent reinforcement. This used to be described with the metaphor of slot machines. Can you picture a slot machine? You ever played one? You never know. It's not even a handle anymore. You never know when you're going to get a reward out of that machine. You might keep pulling the handle, pushing the button. You never know. And 20 years ago, when I was in college, and email was still fun because it was mostly messages from people you knew and wanted to hear from, we talked about email as being like a digital slot machine. You can log into webmail and refresh as often as you want. You cannot predict which refresh is going to bring you an email from someone you want to hear from. Now, we got trained to check our email a lot, and then what happened? It became a vehicle for grabbing our involuntary attention. Have you gotten a lot of email lately from somebody you wanted to hear from? Maybe a handful. And now, not only do you get barraged with emails wanting your attention, wanting your purchases, those emails are able to track you in more and more sophisticated ways. What did you look at? What did you click on? How long did you stay there? So that the next one can get your attention even more effectively. This is part of the acceleration of the attention age. It is not new. Newspapers know how much to charge for print advertising based on their circulation numbers. Humans have always played the game of, if I buy space here, how many people will see it? And out of those people who see it, how many will do the thing I hope that they will do? This has always happened. But it's gotten so detailed now. And this is a little creepy, right? It's a little creepy to think about. To know that the algorithms built into Facebook are tracking when you scroll and for how long and what you stay on. Now, I like to confuse them a little bit. I will scroll to something I'm not interested in and then put my device down and go off and do something else. I don't know if this does any good. It just gives me a little thrill to mess with them. But as their sophistication grows, all these platforms, Facebook and Google and TikTok, are better and better and better at regulating and controlling our attention. And some of it is the use of intermittent reinforcement. When you open up Instagram Reels or a TikTok For You page, you don't know when you're going to hit the thing that you're really excited to see and when it's going to be just kind of junk. Honestly, a lot of Facebook is junk these days, but some of the platforms still have things that you're like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, I like that. So you keep scrolling, the algorithm keeps tracking, and it gets better and better at giving you more and more reinforcement to be on there. Chris Hayes writes, the slot machine model allows the most powerful and profitable companies in the entire world to entirely dissolve the problem that, for a century, Hollywood executives and big publishing houses and Bollywood producers have all attempted to solve. The question, what will hold people's attention? They don't have to have an answer, per se. They can simply throw a million little interruptions at us, track which ones grab our attention, and then repeat those. Remember, grabbing the attention of a room of people is much easier than keeping that attention. So if folks are choosing to just grab and grab and grab and grab and grab, well, that's easier to do. Hayes says, over time, this process, thanks to machine learning and the efficiencies of genuinely competitive markets, will get better and better, finding what grabs your attention at a given moment and then giving you nothing but that. Now, we could keep deep diving into this topic, but since there is a whole book on it, I will just point you in that direction for further exploration. Because there is one thing that you can do to cultivate deeper focus and more voluntary attention in yourself that I want us to turn to now. Are you ready? You can read long-form content, ideally on paper. Did you know that was the life hack for 2025? Get a book, get a print newspaper. Long-form content, ideally on paper. For one thing, there are eye-tracking studies that show that we read differently on screens than we do on paper. A person reading on paper reads across the line, across the line, across the line. A person reading on a screen, even a screen that is set up to look like paper, even an e-book, even an e-reader, people read in what they refer to as an F shape. So you read all the way across the first couple lines, and then you kind of skim, then you read partway across a couple lines, and then you kind of skim. Pay attention the next time you're reading something on your phone. Notice if it's hard to read all the way across every line. If it is, you are displaying a common human behavior. Read on paper when you can. Timothy Snyder, the scholar of authoritarianism, gives the advice that we should not only rage against the machine, but also read against the machine. Also on paper. When you read on paper, not only are you retraining the parts of your brain that are capable of that sustained voluntary attention, you also are denying corporations the ability to track. How far did you read into the book? How long did you stay on that page? What quote did you flip back to look it up again? Read on paper. Read as widely as you can. Read things you disagree with. Read things you think you won't like. Read the book you found in the little free library in your neighborhood that you're pretty sure your neighbor, who did not vote the way you voted, put in that library. Expose yourself to these ideas and really try to make space to sink into them. And from there, Chris Hayes says, and I agree, find other analog ways of being to intentionally invest in. Take time outdoors without your devices. I know it's hard. I love podcasts on my walk. I feel so efficient. But go for a walk without any device. See what happens. Sit down with a friend and leave your phones in the other room so no chiming can interrupt you. Chris Hayes ends his book by saying, "We are not destined to have the current form of attention capitalism forever, or probably even for that much longer. Some of this is because we are reaching the natural limits of a corporation's ability to profit on grabbing attention. And some of it is that when we look at the cycles of human society as they have occurred over the past centuries, we notice that when extractive capitalism reaches, let's say, a boiling point, there is pushback that leads to regulation and behavior change. Think about the work of labor unions to create an 8-hour workday. Think about the work of reformers who said it is not true that children who are old enough to walk are old enough to work in factories. These things used to be commonly assumed, that people desperate enough for money would work 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, and bring their children too. And in some places, this sort of exploitation still occurs. But it's not a common assumption anymore. Change is possible on the societal level. And in the meantime, in our religious lives, we have opportunities to make changes to protect and strengthen our voluntary attention. It is, in fact, part of the practice of Unitarian Universalism. Do you value your relationships with others in your lives? I'm going to guess yes. Some of you are nodding, thank you. If you do, that is an invitation to deeper voluntary attention. You can pick just a few things you can do to reduce distractions. I got a smartwatch, and now I have to remind myself, just because it's buzzing doesn't mean it's important. I'm going to keep my attention on the person I'm with. Do you want to do something for social justice in the service of a better world? I'm going to guess at least some of you do. Choose a lane to stay in for a while so you can be consistently committed to learning about, to engaging with, and to making change in one area. I know the barrage of bad news draws your attention from thing to thing to thing, and they are all upsetting. I'm not trying to say that some causes are not worth your attention. I'm trying to say that you are most effective when you pick the one you're going to commit to and trust that others are choosing the other causes. And be patient, because the results from a commitment to social justice do not come quickly. The other day I listened to a podcast episode, not while walking, I should say. I think I was cleaning my kitchen, in which Parker Palmer, who is an 80-something-year-old Quaker activist and author, was talking with others about social change in these times. And he said, we've been taught to be impatient. I put my quarter in. I went to one protest. Why isn't it fixed? Shouldn't we be done by now? I went to 3 protests. That seems excessive. He remembered that when he was a young man, he met with an experienced community organizer, and he said, "You are making a real difference in your community. I notice you are changing the local culture. There's been a lot of tension between police officers and bored teenagers who are getting up to shenanigans that's really escalated in these destructive ways, and you are making a real difference. What is the secret? Teach me your secret." And the organizer said, "Potlucks." Parker Palmer said, "What?" He said, "Potlucks. Lots of potlucks, repeatedly, over time. Because when you create occasions for people to be together, to get to know each other, to get to understand each other's experiences, you lay the foundation for change." Potlucks, I have to say, is a genius strategy because it doesn't require a lot of resources or expertise to start hosting a potluck. And it's a really hard strategy because, once again, hosting one potluck does not fix all the difficulties in your community. Have you ever looked at any two people in your life who've been fighting and thought to yourself, but I sat them down over dinner and explained how it could be better? It takes time. It takes sustained commitment. And do you value connecting with your deepest self? Can you think of times when you have found what is ultimate within you? Your values, your aspirations, and a foundation that reassures you that you are okay and you are loved in a way that can never be taken from you. Have you had those moments? The way you get to those is through this kind of sustained attention to what is deepest. Nurturing this connection to this foundation is separate from the passing experiences of feelings and impulses and reactions. You might think about the meditation advice to be the river and not what is floating by in the current, or to be the sky and not the changeable weather. The clouds come and go. If you're the clouds, that's very disruptive. If you're the sky, you can let them drift. The religious life, some have said, requires us to look at our understandings and our relationships on each of those three levels, with ourselves, with others, and with our broader world. Protecting and strengthening our capacity for sustained voluntary attention is essential on all three levels. And good news, you are doing it already. You are here. You are choosing to invest in your religious life. Even once we get a video wall up there, it's not going to have a breaking news ticker on it. I have to let you know. And if you try to watch Netflix on your phone during the sermon, it probably won't go well. And yet you choose to be here. So you are already cultivating this deeper voluntary attention. So let's close with the words of another poet, Mary Oliver, who is so wise about attention. She writes, "Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean, the one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down into the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Let us share a few moments in silence with these words from Mary Oliver.
many needs, and there are a lot of causes which ask for our attention and resources. Sometimes it seems like our meager contribution isn't going to make much impact. But when we combine our resources, we exponentially increase our ability to make a difference. And like that magic penny, when we share our resources, we are richer still. This month, we are sharing with Planned Parenthood and their work to protect and expand access to sexual and reproductive health and education for everyone. The Little Red Wagon at the front of the sanctuary is another way that UUCS shares with the community through donations of food and financial resources. Your offering is a sacrament, a blessing, and is gratefully received in whatever form and whatever way you choose to give.
And now, the sacred ritual of announcements. A couple updates. Next Sunday, Sarah Pickett, one of our homilists, will be speaking on the senses of summer. Summertime evokes thoughts of warm weather and ideas of slowing down and enjoying life. And so, she asks, is this an important spiritual practice for us to nurture? Come find out. Today, following the service, after a pause for coffee, there will be a board forum. This is our first of this congregational year. It's going to be in the fellowship hall because that's where we have the new technology to allow for projection, because I made slides for you. Although Lorianne reminded me they're not actually slides, right? They're not like little plastic discs. They're computer generated. We are figuring out in these times when so much needs our attention and calls for our involvement, how shall we organize ourselves so that we can see our social justice commitments? We can identify, okay, this one's here and this one's here, and this is how you add one, and this is how you decide when one is done. We are beginning work on this kind of framework for understanding this sort of organization and decision making. So I made you some slides about that. And then we will have a chance for conversation and input as we are engaging in congregational discernment about the idea of a safe parking partnership with Church at the Park. You may or may not have seen things in the newsletter about that, but we will have some information about that and a chance for folks to say, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm concerned about, this is what I'm excited about. So after you've had a chance to drink some coffee and eat some snacks, probably around noon, we'll fire up the projector at that end of the fellowship hall and talk about social justice. Nothing is set in stone, right? We are a living tradition. Things are often developing and evolving. So come be part of how these things develop and evolve. And related to that, at the end of this month, we are hosting 4 unhoused families with children who will be staying here in our building as part of our partnership with the Family Promise program. They will be here from August 31st to September 7th. Labor Day is super early this year. It's September 1st. So that means the middle of Labor Day weekend to the first Sunday in September. And many volunteers are still needed to help make meals, spend the night, interact with and support these families. And if you are interested in being one of those volunteers, there's a table in the fellowship hall where you can sign up after service. There will be experienced folks there who can answer your questions about what's involved if you have any. There are other announcements, as always, on the back of your order of service and in the Friday email update. I encourage you to take a look through all of that.
Reverend Monica is going to kindle our social justice lantern from the flame of our community chalice. Thank you. This is a symbol of the many, 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 many ways that you, the members and friends of UUCS, work throughout our community to promote kindness, equity, and justice. As we extinguish the chalices that we lit at the start of our time together, I'd like to share this prayer. It's number 507 from the Gray Hymnal. Grant us the ability to find joy and strength, not in the strident call to arms, but in stretching out our arms, to grasp our fellow creatures in the striving for justice and truth.
And please join together to sing the closing hymn appropriately from All the Fret and Fever of the Day, number 90 in the Gray Hymnal. Please rise in body or spirit. Number 90. From all the fret and fever of the day, let there be moments when we turn away, and deaf to all confusing outer din, intently listen for the voice within. In quietness and solitude we find the soundless wisdom of the deeper mind. With clear harmonious purpose let us then bring richer meaning to the world again.
If you would please remain standing, and if you are comfortable, you may join hands with your neighbor, or you could just share a glance, whatever works for you. We're going to say our closing words together, and they are in your order of service, but if you don't know them, you may look behind you on the wall. They are also printed there. So please join me in saying our closing words. May faith in the spirit of life, hope for the community of earth, and love for the sacred in one another be ours now and in all the days to come.
I know, yeah.